How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today we're going to be covering a couple of little programs that I wrote in Python. So recently I've been trying to learn a programming language, and I picked up Python because it is relatively flexible and forgiving to newcomers. So I wrote a program here that was supposed to calculate YouTube votes, and a really dumb program that calculates date of birth. So these are the types of programs you write just to make sure that you feel confident with like the syntax and everything. There's not a whole lot of logic involved in it. So what we have here, let's run the YouTube vote calculator, and I'll sort of demonstrate to you how it works. So first, if you look down here on the window on the left, at the very bottom of the screen, we got a prompt for enter the number of positive votes. So let's say the video had 456 positive votes. Now we have to enter the number of negative votes. So let's say it had 123 negative votes. We press enter. It tells you, it prints out 579 users rated this video. 78% of the viewers liked this video. 21% of viewers disliked this video. So let's go ahead and then take a look at the program itself that I wrote here. So the first two lines are for getting the input. So we have positive votes as input and negative votes as input. We saw that appear right here. Then we take those positive and negative votes and add them together for the total number of votes right here. Pretty much the third line of the program. You'll notice all the text in red, those are just comments for it that sort of help you understand what is going on. And then we divide the total number of votes by 100. So we took those total number of votes we added together previously, divided them by 100 right there. And then we take the total hundredth, or then we take the negative votes and divide that by the total hundredth. And then we take the positive votes and divide that by the total hundredth. So that way you can get your percentage of it. Like it takes the number that you entered, and it takes the result of the total hundredth division here, and it prints it out, whatever. It seems to work. The only difficulty, well, right here, we have the printing commands. This is where all the magic on the screen is created. One of the problems that I've noticed with this is that right here in the print command, I've actually used the integer, what is that? It's a method or something. It's where it'll round off or chop off the last or anything past the decimal point. So by default, in Python, it appears that when you do division and it results in a floating point number, it'll automatically convert an integer to a floating point data type. And then I wanted it to print out just a nice plain number. I didn't want to have a decimal point, so I used this integer statement here as part of the print statement, and that it chops off everything after the decimal point. So the problem is that if you have like 78.9%, for example, it would round it basically down to 78 because it chops it off. It doesn't actually do any intelligent rounding. I imagine there is a library or some other code word for that, but I couldn't think of it with the knowledge that I have. But that would be a bug, a problem that needs to be fixed if you wanted it to be more accurate. So it should round up and round down properly. Then over here on the right side, we have the date of birth program. So I'll just run that module. And over here in the idle, the Python shell idle window, idle, it's like they call it Python shell, but then when you look at it in the start menu, it says it's idle. So I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is. Enter the current year. So let's say it's 2050. And then enter the date of birth. Let's say 1980. And the user's age would be 70 years old at that time. One of the things, so let me talk a little bit about the inspiration for both of these. They do come from a place of need, I guess you could say, because that's one of the best ways, I think, to learn how to program is if you actually have like a use case in mind for it. It helps keep you motivated. So a couple of my use cases was I was browsing Wikipedia, and from time to time they'll mention the date of birth for somebody without actually telling you how old they are. So I thought, rather than running it through a calculator or trying to do it in my head, I'm not the best at math. It was never my strong subject. Instead, I just, you write a program to do it. And it's fun. It gives you an opportunity to try and see how knowledgeable you are, if you can pull it off or not. And then with the YouTube vote calculator, so you'll oftentimes see there will be the thumbs up to thumbs down. And the best indicator of the overall percentage is the actual line. They have a little progress bar, a little meter of that sort. But it doesn't actually say what percentage liked or disliked. So I figured if I would like to know the solid numbers on that and not just have a sort of a guesswork based off of some visual indicator, that why not write a program to display that? So it's one of those cool things, if you can find small little projects, it's best for starting out, because obviously it's easy to come up with these really huge ideas of things that you would like to have programmed. But when you're first starting out, it's very difficult to actually achieve that. There can be a couple of situations there where either you try to make this huge program work, and since you really don't have a fundamental understanding of how the language works yet, really, you're still building that up, it's still being internalized in your mind, you get into the situation where it just seems so overwhelming and impossible that you give up on it. Or you figure that you have to learn a ton for that project, and therefore you start reading, you start researching, and then your motivation just slowly dies over time because you're not seeing any real product that's being output from that effort. So it's nice to have these little projects that you can come up with that gives you, it's a short thing. You can write it in 15 minutes and it gives you a sense of accomplishment afterwards. It's much better than just copy pasting code off of web pages or typing it out of an instruction manual or a Python learning book, right? So, people would probably ridicule it, the Stack Overflow geniuses. If I have any of those in my audience, those are the type of people who will go on Stack Overflow and they'll ask a really nuanced question saying, I started learning programming 5 hours ago, and here I'm running into a problem coding my neural network right over here. Those are motivation killers, to be honest, to read stuff like that, because it makes you feel like there is no way you could compete with utter geniuses like that. But I know a lot of the times it's all about perspective, and so that's why I try to keep positive with what I am doing here. And that's two little terrible programs, I suppose, that I wrote. If we want to take a look at the actual date of birth thing, first we grab the current year, then it's like math. Well, what can you say about it? First you grab the current year, then you grab the date of birth. Then here's a little bit of interesting logic that doesn't need to be in here, but I did a check for it. If the date of birth is a digit or not, it could either be the date of birth or current year. If either of those or both of those are not a digit, then it'll print out that you must enter a number. Before this, I actually had some additional conditional logic in here that involved saying whether or not I had one set up to be and, because and then I had another one set up to be or, because I made a mistake at first where I didn't say not current year for the second variable here, or when I was checking current year whether or not it was a digit, I forgot to say not, so it was coming out wrong. So I set it up originally where it was rather redundant, but I had this statement and it said or, and then I had the exact same statement and it just said and. So it was like comparing both of them or comparing either of them. It's complicated and stupid, but I realized that was not necessary. So I just commented it out because I'm keeping it there for posterity, I suppose. And then of course, at the end of that, if it is a number, if it is a digit, then we just go ahead and say that age equals current year minus the date of birth, and then you can print that out. So that's pretty cool. This is the user's age is, and then you have age variable. So for those of you who are wondering what I'm doing, I didn't really have didn't have the time to play anything because I was busy with this and other real life stuff. But yeah, I hope this was somewhat interesting. I certainly had fun with it this afternoon and this evening, and I'll try to do more topical things in the future. So thank you very much for watching if you made it this far, and I hope to see you next time.